Hello, everybody. This is Toby again with Chariots of Fire Fellowship, and we're gonna take a closer look today at the stars. That's one of my favorite subjects, and we really can find out exactly when Christ was born. And it's going to be my privilege to actually show you in the stars in the astronomy software how we can find that. And I want to have a lot of fun today, and I hope you all are going to be here with me. Just to set the stage, when we talk about the birth of Christ, we're obviously talking about a few historical figures, and their lifetime really marks the boundary of when Jesus was born. So the first one that the Gospel of Luke talks about is Caesar Augustus, and he lived a long time, as you can see, and he was the first Roman emperor, and he lived from 27 BC until 14 after the change of the Common Era, and he's the one that issued that decree for the counting of the people. So then we have another person here from the Gospel of Luke, that is Quirinius. I hope I pronounced that right. My Latin is a bit rusty. His name is Publius Sulpicius Quirinius. So hopefully you guys want to say that as well. He was one of the Roman aristocrats, senators, consuls, and he was a very close confidant of Emperor Augustus. So we do know from history he was a legate, meaning a governor of the province of Syria, which also had authority over Judea, where Jesus was born. And that was between 6 and 12 Common Era, so that was a little bit late in time. So this is a lot of people criticized, especially the Gospel of Luke, for mentioning this decree to count the Roman Empire because of this. And but there is a solution to that, and more modern research found out that because Quirinius was a close confidant of the emperor, he was somewhat like a special ambassador to Augustus in the Eastern Mediterranean already as early as 12 before Common Era, and also up all the way until 2. So this is really the time frame that we need to look into when it comes to the birth of Christ. And yeah, we know that he was mentioned in the Gospel of Luke. But now we have the third person, that is the Jewish king, Herod the Great. He was a very interesting character. He murdered a lot of his family members. So you see here his lifetime. He died around 5 before Common Era. Most historians say 4, but I'm saying 5, and I'm showing you in just a moment why I'm saying 5. He was under the Romans. He was king of Judea, and he's the one who started the renovation work with the temple. So here's an interesting quote, and that is from the Antiquities of the Jews. That is one of the books that Josephus wrote. And he says there that King Herod died shortly after a lunar eclipse. So of course Jesus was born before Herod died, because Herod is the one that killed the infants in Bethlehem. So we need to find that lunar eclipse over Bethlehem. And I really wanted to show you how we can do that together. And I hope this is understandable. So let's see here. All right, I hope you can see that. So this is the Bible's, the astronomy software. Hope you all can see this well. So I'm going to make a few changes here. I don't know if you can see that, but in the bottom left it says see the date and the time zone. So now let's find out about that lunar eclipse that King Herod died about. So first of all, we go to the right location. So the king resided in Jerusalem. So we're going to Jerusalem. And please forgive me right now, I do not see your questions because I don't have too many screens here. But I'm trying to do that. See here it says now the location is Jerusalem and it's 786 meters. That's around 2,300 feet above sea level. So also has a minor implication on how the stars appear, on how your elevation is. So now let's check the time. So I'm going to the year 1 and I wanted to show you something so you really understand what I'm doing here. So when I go back another year in time from the year 1 of the Common Era, you see it says 0, but the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar do not have such a year. So this really here is the year 1 BC. That is 2 BC, 3, 4, and this is 5 BC. And Josephus also tells us that the lunar eclipse was around the Feast of Passover. So I want to show you something here that you may have not heard before. So I'm showing the constellations. You see here this orange line, it's called the ecliptic, and that is really the orbit of the Earth going through the solar system. Just bear with me for 1 second here. All right. So when you imagine the sun is here, the Earth is here, and the Earth is orbiting around the sun, and whatever is on the other side of the sun, meaning like where my little pinky is over here, that is the background of what you see from the Earth, you know. And so the sun travels in 1 year along this line here, the ecliptic, and it does a 360-degree full circle. So for the sake of the biblical astronomy, I wanted to show you this here. This is the sign of Virgo, the Virgin, okay? And this is going to be very important very soon, and that's why I'm emphasizing this. So the Jewish year starts when both the sun and the moon are in the Virgin, because everything starts with the Virgin. You know, Jesus was born from a virgin. You know, he started his earthly ministry and life as a baby, and this is a pregnant virgin that is about to give birth. And I want to keep this nice and sweet. I could say a lot more about that. You see here the lion, which originally was also, as all the other constellations, referring to the Lion of the tribe of Judah. You know, today we call this Leo. And this is the last sign. So see here, Jesus came as a baby into this world, Virgin Mary. And then the sun would travel all the way around and then arrive here in the last sign of the zodiac in Leo and become the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who would rule as a king, judge, and fully mature man. So this is the story of the zodiac, which I don't want to go into more detail at this time. So right now we want to find that lunar eclipse. So Josephus tells us it was around Passover. And the interesting thing is, you see here's the sun. The sun is in the sign of Aries, and Aries is the lamb, and the lamb is the main sacrifice during the Feast of Passover. You see here, as every click that I do here with the mouse moves the sun 1 day back. You see how it moves back here through the sign of Aries. And so this is the spring season. This is March, April. when the sun is in Aries. And so the lunar eclipse is when the moon is on the other side. And I want to show you this. The other side of the circle. See, this circle here is the ecliptic. And a lunar eclipse is when we here in the center, as the observer, cast a shadow on the moon, who would be about here, from the sun. That's the lunar eclipse. So let's move the moon back a couple of days. You see how the moon is circling back. And I'm going to move it into what is called an opposition with the sun. So in about here. I'm going to zoom in on the moon here so you can see that. And I'm cheating a little bit for the sake of this video because I already know when the lunar eclipse happened from the NASA website. But I wanted to show you here. See that? This is beautiful. This is the full moon, and you see how the shadow of the Earth is starting to cover it. So this is the only full lunar eclipse over Jerusalem during that time. And so this is the time when King Herod died. You see here, this is 5 BC. I explained that earlier. And this is March, and this is the 23rd. So this is roughly the time when King Herod died. So Jesus must have been born before that, all right? So now we're coming to an interesting scripture. Let me see if we can see that scripture again in 1 second. Yeah, we have to say Jesus was born probably a couple of months before Herod died. And you know, we just saw that King Herod died around late March, 5 BCE. And you know, you had the visiting shepherds, you had the wise men, you had the 8 days for the circumcision, you had 33 days for Mary to be purified according to the law of Moses. You see here, that's Leviticus 12. It talks about a woman giving birth to a male child needs to wait 33 days before she's pure again. And then, only then, they were able to go to the temple and present the baby before Simeon and Anna, and then flee to Egypt. So all of this probably took a couple of months, but certainly not a couple of years to accomplish. So I believe that Jesus was born a couple of months before King Herod died. And you're more than welcome to disagree with that. So we already know, so Quirinius started his ministry in the Eastern Mediterranean around 12 before Common Era, and Herod died in 5, so we have that window for the birth. And now comes the beauty, because the Apostle John, out of all the gospel writers, he's the one that gives us the most detail in terms of chronology, and he actually tells us something amazing. This is Revelation chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. It says there that there was a woman that was pregnant, and that whole woman and that pregnancy was a great sign in the heaven, and that woman was clothed with the sun, and the moon was under her feet, and she was crowned with the 12 stars. So let's go back to our astronomy software. Okay, see here we're still in Jerusalem. Bethlehem would be the same. It's only 8 miles away. The stars would look really the same, almost the same, for the purposes of this demonstration. And this is still the date when Herod, approximately when he died. So now, it did say in the book of Revelation that the sun and the moon were in that sign of the Virgin. So now, I hope you can see that well on your screen. We're jumping back a couple of months in time. Remember I said it was a couple of months that all the events took place here, and hopefully you can see this well. Okay, let me just put in Bethlehem just to make sure. See, everything is the same. And I want you to see this. See here how the sun travels into the constellation of Virgo. And it says in the text that the sun clothed the Virgin, so it was part of her clothing. You see here, she's wearing a dress, and the dress is from about here to about here. So now the sun is clothing, and now we have the moon as well here in the constellation, but the text says that the moon was under her feet. So we're moving the moon a little bit further down, and see, when I jump one day, it's already in the area of her feet. And all the planets, by the way, of the solar system are within a very small angle of the ecliptic, so the moon would never appear like up here or anything like this. It would always be very close to the ecliptic, to the orange line here. So you see, when we zoom in to the moon, let's do this together. This is what the Jewish people call Rosh Hashanah. This is the first sliver of the new moon. You see here, says moon age 1.3 days. So if I go a bit back in time, we have moon age 1 day. So now the moon is about 1 day old. Now we need to go a little further for the foot area. So can you see this, how this beautiful little sliver here is in the foot area of the Virgin? And that is how in astronomy, the beginning of the Jewish calendar is defined. The sun and the moon in the same constellation, that's really the beginning mark of the year. And you know, the first sliver of the new moon is the beginning of the new year. That is called Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, you know, Feast of Trumpets, New Year. There's many words for it. And you see how here the moon, oh, let's just zoom back in on the moon. Okay, let me show you this again. So the green line here is the horizon. So you could technically only see what is above the green line. So see, we are here, September 6 before Common Era. This is the 14th, and we have about 5 p.m. now. So we're moving forward in time. You see how the sun gets close to the horizon, it gets close to set. And this is the beauty with the Feast of Trumpets. I'm showing you something here. This may be a little more advanced for some of you. Okay, so now this is the time of sunset. The sun is under the horizon. You wouldn't see it anymore. And because the sunlight is so strong, you never saw the moon in the first place. But now that the sun is covered optically for us as an observer, we can now see the moon. And we can see that first sliver. You see here? This is what the Jews are looking for in order to declare the new year. And this is exactly what the Apostle John is describing. So really here we have the year 6 before Common Era. We have September the 14th. And I want to go back here. This is exactly the illustration. The woman that was pregnant gave birth, and it was a great sign in heaven. She was clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and she was crowned with the 12 stars. So that really means, in my understanding, that there was, the woman is part of the zodiac. The 12 stars is another word for the zodiac, the 12 constellations. So just to recap, we found out together that Herod died during a lunar eclipse, and that was around the Passover time in March 5 BC. Jesus was born a couple of months before that, not a couple of years, because he would have also been too old at the beginning of his ministry if that was the case. And so the Feast of Trumpets was really the time when he was born, according to Revelation 12. And in that year, that was the 14th and the 15th of September. So this is the birthday of Christ. In my understanding, if you have a different understanding, we can discuss that in the comment section. And I just wanted to add one other thing. It does say in the Gospel of Luke that John the Baptist was about 6 months older than Christ. So he was, if Christ was born on the Feast of Trumpets, as I believe from Revelation 12, then John the Baptist was born on Passover. And this makes a lot of sense because the Jewish people always expected for the prophet Elijah to come, and they expected that to happen on the Feast of Passover. And in that year 6 before Common Era, Passover was in early April, as you see here. So I believe because the scriptures say that John was Elijah that was to come to prepare the way for Jesus, that he was born here in early April. Christ was born mid-September, 6 BC, and then the next Feast of Passover, Herod died. All right, thank you so much. And let me see if we have any questions that we can discuss together here. Gonna need to take the astronomy out. Okay, at this point, I don't have any questions online, so I hope that you will bombard me with all your questions later on. You can replay this video, enjoy it, share it with your friends, share it freely, and let me know what you think. And thanks so much for watching. God bless you, and well, let's celebrate the birthday of Christ on the Feast of Trumpets.